Thank you all so much for being here. Let me begin by, as we used to say in the United States Senate, extending a point of personal privilege. The idea of being introduced by the most well-known, most recognized district attorney in the world is truly an honor, Mr. Morgan. I've been an admirer of yours for years and years, and your testimony about Judge Sonia Sotomayor is compelling, in my view. And Joe, thank you so much. As you point out, every single day, I think there are more. I just know the largest city near me is Philadelphia, and New York is even bigger, obviously, but there are more cases, criminal cases, felony cases tried in the Philadelphia city courts than all the federal courts combined, if I'm not mistaken, if my statistic is correct. And so you all know what you're talking about. And let me say to my Irish buddy to the left here, we've been friends a long, long time. And the chief, not only speaking as chief of Miami, but of all the chiefs, of the major city chiefs, and also speaking for the forum. And the individuals assembled behind me, all running major cities and major police departments. This is a real testament. This is not often done. I've presided over as a senator and now as vice president. I'm presiding over, participating in an awful lot of Supreme Court nominations in the last 37 years, and this is exceptional. That so many members of law enforcement and the prosecutorial community would come forward to endorse a woman of this caliber. We've heard a lot about Judge Sonia Sotomayor lately and the power of her story. It's just referenced by Chief Timoney is compelling. It's absolutely compelling. But, you know, there's a part of her record that seems to be, up to now, been flying under the radar a bit, and that's her tough stance on criminals and her unyielding commitment to finding justice for the victims of crime. You know, it's good to see all of you here, the vast majority of the major law enforcement groups in this country helping us bring that record to light. The National Association of Police Organizations, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Police Executive Research Forum, the National Latino Police Officers Association, the Sheriff's Association, the Major Chiefs Association, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and the National Association of District Attorneys. Now, as close as they are, they don't all get together all the time on everything. And this is an incredible unifying position they've taken with regard to this fine judge. All of you here, your support for what we're doing, I believe, is going to go a long way to putting to rest some of the ridiculous statements made about the judge, and putting in perspective what a remarkable woman she will be, a remarkable judge she will be, justice on the Supreme Court. This is a woman whose lifelong commitment to law enforcement is just impossible to argue with. I won't say hard to argue with, impossible to argue with. Some say it came from her 5 years as a tough-as-nails prosecutor, as Mr. Morgenthau pointed out, in one of the toughest cities in the world. You know, they deal with an awful lot. It's the largest city in America. But let's face it, folks. I think it's probably started as you implied, Chief. I think it started with her upbringing in the South Bronx. You know, she grew up in public housing projects in the Bronx, and she recalls her mother telling her, you're not allowed to go into the stairwells. You're not allowed to go in certain places because it's just too dangerous. There's danger lurking literally in the stairwell of your apartment complex or your public housing complex. She grew up, she saw the devastation that crime caused in her community. Remember the time frame in which she was growing up in the city, in the South Bronx. And she used that experience. She used that experience as a prosecutor and then as a judge to work with law enforcement to ensure that criminals, murderers, drug dealers, gang members, worst offenders would face justice and get what they deserved. You know, from personal experience gained during her days as assistant district attorney in Manhattan, she knows the brave work the police do every day in fighting crime. She didn't have to guess about it. She saw it. I don't know for a fact, but she probably went to some funerals of police officers at that time. She knows how they put their lives on the line. She worked hard. and hand in hand with the officers and the detectives on the front lines, from what I can gather in my inquiries about her. She did it to gather evidence, building fact by fact, witness by witness, the cases that would result in putting criminals behind bars. You know, she made sure that when you all did your job in New York, and I'm sure it would have been no matter what jurisdiction she was in, when you all did your jobs in protecting the community, she did hers in protecting you and the community. Her cases ran the gambit, and as the two that were mentioned, I will not go. I'll not go over them again. But the two most celebrated cases were the Tarzan murder cases. The murder case, the Tarzan murderer, dubbed by the press, a guy who, as I understand, Mr. Morgenthau, was literally jump or climb from rooftop to rooftop between buildings, and after a complicated trial that lasted 4 weeks as co-counsel involving more than 40 witnesses, the triple murderer is convicted, and he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. She also led, as was pointed out, what was essentially then a landmark case, because it was the first test of the case in child pornography under the new state law, and you know, the Supreme Court had upheld the constitutionality of it. And I don't know how the assignment got there, but my guess is you turned to somebody who you knew would take this first test case and make it work. New York versus Ferber. You know, she performed flawlessly under pressure for to get convictions in that case. But that was a Supreme Court case. The conviction, which was later affirmed on appeal. And so, as a judge, you'd say, well, okay, that's her record as a prosecutor. That's what she did then. All right, got that. She's a young prosecutor out of law school. She's full of zest and intelligence, and so I can kind of understand that. Well, what'd she do as a judge? By the way, when she's confirmed, she will have served longer on the court than any member of the Supreme Court had before they got to the Supreme Court. As a judge, you know, she has a long record, and she's not changed her tough stance. She's used her practical understanding of the real world of cops and crime they confront. On the streets they attempt to uphold the law on. She uses the evidence against, for example, one of the practical things that when I was going over the cases, one of the things I found, Joe, that I found kind of interesting, because she understands how you all work and the environment in which you do work, and she's absolutely faithful to the Constitution. She did not expel. She did not dismiss evidence against based on a technical challenge, revising a court's suspension of evidence from a warrantless vehicle search. I mean, you know, this everybody. You know, if you listen to the talk shows on the right, they'd say this is a woman who's out there making it harder for you all to do your job. Well, in fact, in some of the most, you know, kind of the tests that most law enforcement that I've worked with look to, how did she deal with a practical case on a warrantless search of an automobile? She was willing to go ahead and go above, which is rare, the sentence mandated by the law when she thought it was necessary, as in the case of a drug dealer who lied at a sentencing hearing. You know, even though you wear blue, she wore black. You both, law enforcement and her, spent your careers working for the same goals: to clean the streets, to have safer communities, and for an uncompromising system of justice. You know, and I'm sure that many of your stories are similar to hers. The Chief has made reference to his days in the Bronx where he went to high school. Many of you probably grew up seeing the lasting damage that crime can do to a community, and you decided to spend your lives working tirelessly to put an end to that carnage, of that damage. And now you've gone through a career witnessing firsthand the bruises on battered women, the track marks on young teens, the blood and the tears of the helpless victims of violent crime. You guys have seen it all. You've seen it all. And let me tell you, so has she. And it matters. Look, the law enforcement community, I think, in this country knows me. And I hope you give me credit for thinking that I get it. Well, let me tell you, she gets it. She gets it too. She gets what you do every single day, day in and day out. She gets that one drug dealer in a corner, one rapist in a park is one too many and can terrorize and devastate a neighborhood. She gets what it takes to keep our community safe and our streets clean, and she has a record to prove that she gets it. So you all are on the front lines. But as you do your job, know that Judge Sotomayor has your back as well. And throughout this nominating process, I know you'll have her back. I just want to say to all the law enforcement organizations represented, and I referenced here today, I truly appreciate you having the moxie to stand up and in the face of this stuff and say, look, this woman's the real deal. This woman's the real deal. It's not just Princeton, it's not just Yale, it's not just her profound intellect, it's not just her incredible academic achievements. It's that she gets it. She gets it. This judge will be a great justice, and I want to thank all of you because you're going to make that happen. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you. It was an honor to meet you.
Yeah, it was good. It's great to be here. An honor for me to be with you.
Well, thank you. And thanks for training her so well. See you, boss. Thank you all very, very much.
And told me he looks 10 years younger since he left.